You're listening to the Ish They Don't Tell You podcast with Denise Iman and Serena Nicole, where we bring cute combos to the airwaves.
Let's go. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Ish They Don't Tell You podcast. I'm Denise Iman. Hey Serena.
Hey, Chief Encouragement Officer.
Hey pampered bougie princess.
Hello.
Did I get it right?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I know if I didn't, you would have told me. So
right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
Are you?
Actually,
You should, because tomorrow's a very special day.
Yes, it is. Yes, almost 36.
Almost.
Yes, 3 capital 6.
Yeah.
Closer to 40. So
yeah.
Before we get started, don't forget to send in your letters. Hey sis, your hey sis letters to heysis@theishthaydon'ttellyu.com. We want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the show? Do you have any questions? Do you have any feedback? Or if you want to hear a certain topic, relationships, issues that you may be having, scenarios that you may be going through, we want to hear from you guys. So, yeah.
Yay. So what are we going to be talking about today?
Oh, it's a good topic today. You know, the foundation of our lives, our family.
Yes.
Our family. Talk about family, some of the ups and downs that we go through with our families, some of the things that we learn from, things that we don't want to do that we see in our families. And just the love of family, because, you know, family is awesome.
Yes, they are. It's a very, I don't know. It's just tricky.
Yeah.
It's so tricky because it's like
we don't choose them.
Right.
We don't
choose
them.
It's the only relationship where you don't get to choose the people.
No, you do not.
And that can be very frustrating.
Yes,
at
yes
times.
it can. yes, it can. We'll get more into that side of it later on.
Yes.
You know, how do you deal with that? But yeah, family is very humbling.
What? Yes. Ghost says it all the time. Family will humble you
and
quickly.
And then there are also the ones that, you know, they see you at your best, but they also see you at your raggediest too, and they still accept you.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them.
Yes.
Most of them. They see you at your worst, and they still go and tell people, brag about you. So,
yes,
all the time. That's family.
All the time. Yes.
So, where do we want to start?
So, how about describing our families?
That's good.
Yeah. So, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can.
Okay, go ahead.
So, my family, if you've ever been around my family, you know that we laugh. We laugh a lot. Mm-hmm. There's probably some drinks involved when we're laughing. You know, if we're not in church, we're probably having a drink, just having a good time, sitting on my mom's porch or outside in the yard under the funeral home tent. Because, you know, we have connections like that.
Is it one of the green family?
Oh, yeah, the green one.
The green one?
Yes, the green one with the name, the funeral home.
Oh, see, I didn't know it was like that.
The funeral home name is not the side that faces the road.
Oh, y'all turned that to the back. You done went and got the funeral home tent, but you're not going to give them.
You don't have to go get it. We have it delivered.
Excuse me. Oh, even more so. You have the funeral home tent delivered, but you're not going to give them people the satisfaction of giving them like any promotion.
No, because 9 times out of 10, we probably just, you know, we're not supposed to have the tent because it's not a funeral. So,
but if it's their tent, they can give it to anybody they want to. So
yeah, but the person that's probably bringing the tent is not the person that's authorized.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So we have a hookup. There's usually some music involved. Lots of music. We love music. Just a whole bunch of fun, laughing, lots of laughs, a lot of cracking jokes. There's a lot of people that just show up that aren't really family, like blood family, but people just come, and so they just, you know, it's like they're a part of the family. So we just have a lot of good times, lots of good times. I come from a good family. My mom's side of the family, we grew up in Valdosta, Georgia. My dad's side of the family is also from Valdosta, but yeah, I don't really have much of a relationship with them, which we've talked about before, which is another episode.
Yes, another one coming up shortly. So.
Definitely. So, yeah, but what about your family?
So, my family is kind of the same, kind of different. I would say I come from a big family. There are 7 siblings on my father's side and 6 on my mom's. So, and each sibling had a minimum of 2 children. My mom is the exception, where she only had me. So, yeah, she's the exception. So I tell people like all the time, like, I come from a dry family. And so when I say that, I don't mean like dry in humor or whatever, but we don't really drink. So my grandparents don't drink. Most of my aunts and uncles, they drink, but they don't drink around my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, me and my mom drink, but we don't drink around my grandparents. And it's kind of the same on my dad's side of the family, too. Well, both of his parents have passed away. So it's a little drinking involved, but it's more so like, you know, traditional Jamaican stuff. So like you put the Wray and Nephew in your carrot juice when you're drinking it or something like that.
Okay.
My family...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I can kind of agree with that, because when it's a family function, if it's supposed to be like a party, like people are going to be drinking, but when TJ pull up, everything goes in the hot.
And TJ is your granddad.
Yes. T3.
T3, yes.
Yes, people know, like, everything gets put up. It's like a respect thing. You know, you just don't, or if people are out smoking or whatever, they'll go to their cars, or they'll just kind of go somewhere else and do it. But, so yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that, but.
Yeah, so, we do like to enjoy ourselves and have family gatherings. Like, if a person was to first come and meet my family, I don't want to say they're quiet at first, because Dora is never quiet.
Yes.
So she's going to be the one to introduce herself. Dora's my grandmother, so she's going to be the one to introduce herself, get all up in your business, blah, blah, blah. And then my other family members will start warming up to you, and then they'll treat you like family. I.e., talk about you and tell you what you're doing wrong and what you need to do right. So that's the kind of environment I grew up in. Like, family is family. You have to love them. You have to take them either or. And also just like, we're really close. So that means we have dinners together and we also have talks. So like, you're not going to come around my family and not hear like us cracking on people. You're going to hear politics. You're going to hear culture. Like, it's a whole mix. So yeah.
And my mom is the kind of like, since my grandmother passed, she's kind of the host for like Thanksgivings and just different parties or whatever. She's usually hosting, so everybody comes to her house. So she knows everybody's business.
Right.
She knows it, and it goes down over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of have this similar but different.
Yeah.
So yeah. We just, have a good time whenever we can. But the time is always, there's a certain amount of time. Because, when you've grown up with them for years, you know everybody, you know everything that everybody has going on. So, you have to do it in spurts. You go and you stay a couple days and then
leave.
Yes.
Have to swiftly.
You have to go and get your mind right. It can be a lot. And I think being that my mom is the person that everybody kind of comes to, everybody calls and let her know what's going on, or she called them and find out what's going on. Either way, it's just, it can be kind of overwhelming because she's always carrying it. So
my mom is the same way too. Like, we call her the enabler because everybody knows, like, she's going to, if now the take charge thing, her and my aunt wrestle with, more so my aunt, but she's going to coordinate. And so because she's that, she can kind of, I don't want to say finagle, but she can kind of push family members to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do because they have a problem with this person or whatever. Exactly. And she's like the one to say, hey, well, I'll be the mediator and, you don't have to worry about them. You just talk to me so we can get this done. So, that's my mom.
Yeah. That's my mom.
And kind of my dad, too, on his side. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yes, family is everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we were saying before, they'll humble you.
Yes.
You know when you're going home, you're gonna be accepted, you're gonna be loved. Like it's not for most people, because not everybody has that experience.
Right.
You know, some people are very estranged from their families and don't have that constant support. But for most of the people that I know, family is very humbling, and they can, they feel like they have that support system. So, so we've already talked about our family. So, how would you say being raised within your family contributes to who you are? What are some of those?
It contributes a lot, and now that I'm older, I can look back and see, like, when I do things now, I'm like, I got this from my family. Like, this is the way I was raised. This is why I do this. So I have like a list of positives and negatives, traits that they have.
We gotta keep it real.
Hey,
you gotta keep it real.
100.
All in balance. All in balance.
100.
And, if you're thinking about judging, then you should probably just turn it off right now.
Yeah, turn it off right now. You know what I'm saying?
Or try to act like, you don't have things in your family that you don't like or that you would like to change.
Because I really hope that my family don't hear this episode, because it's going to be...
We gotta keep it real.
Yes,
but keep it within the lines.
Yeah, so we would love to discuss this with y'all. So, at the end, we always give you guys our social handles and our email or whatever. But I think this is a good topic so that we can learn from each other's families.
Absolutely,
and see how we are alike and different at the same time.
Because we're all connected.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of things that you'll say and I'll agree or have that same experience, and vice versa. I think we can all learn something, but I think we can all find similarities, because there's not a whole lot of things that are different.
Yeah, like they say, we all from Africa.
Let's go to your list.
Okay. Okay, so my list. So I have some positives, and some of my positives are also negatives.
Okay.
So I'll start with those first. So one of my positives is perfection. And so when I say perfection, like in my family, it's always, if you're going to do something, you need to go hard at it and do it the best of your ability and with all of your might. And that was like instilled in me when I was young. Like I can even remember when I was learning to write. And my mom and grandma would like look at my paper and be like, this looks like chicken scratch and this is awful. Like, you need to go back to that little desk, that little play desk, and rewrite this, because, girl, what are you doing? This is ugly.
Now, is that perfection, or is that a spirit of excellence, like wanting you to always do your best?
Well, that's true. But when I look at it now, it was more of a sense of perfection in the way that Brene Brown does it.
Okay.
And if you don't know who Brene Brown is, she is like
awesome.
Excellent. Like, she does social work. She has a PhD in social work. Daring Greatly is a great book. Yes. So go ahead and read that.
Rising Strong is also a good one.
So go back and reference to her, and then you'll see what we're talking about. So it was like more of a Daring Greatly perfection.
Okay.
So of course, that also has its downfalls. It's one of my negatives, because now whenever I do something or have an idea, I have to research it constantly to make sure it's perfect. If everything that I put out has to be perfect. And I'm also finding that now, like in my work environment, like when MI will tell me to do something and he's like, don't take a week to do it, like just do it. And I'm like, no, I need to make sure like it's perfect and everything is right. And if nothing is right, and if you come to me and ask me a question, I need to know the answer before you ask it and stuff like that. So that's a negative thing that it has. It's a balance. Sometimes it can be good, sometimes it can be bad.
I think it also assisted in propelling you to where you are too.
That's true.
Because if you didn't have that, just kind of that reinforcement of like do better, you can do better, and staying in the fight and not giving up to keep going through. You probably wouldn't have got through school, So in some ways it is helpful, but like you said, it can be negative also, because it's never good enough. Something is never good enough. You're always working to perfection, which is not even achievable. So
right. So what's one of yours?
Probably my communication style is a big one because, you know, my mom, I don't, my dad, we've had conversations, but I don't think it's never been to the point where, like, having a difficult conversations. There are a lot of difficult conversations that I would like to have with him, but because he's so cutthroat, he just,
it would be
a
difficult conversation.
It would be very difficult conversation. So, but whenever I have witnessed difficult conversations happening, it's just always yelling. It's always yelling. It's always just blunt. You just say what it is, and I don't want to hear anything else, or saying what it is and then leaving. Like, it's never a back and forth. People that don't agree having a conversation or having a healthy kind of conversation.
Right.
So, and so I found that in several different, like, relationships and even in parenting, just taking on that communication. Like, I'm going to say what I got to say, and then I'm done with it. Like, I don't want to hear it. That is over. Once I said what I said, it's done. And then in having difficult conversations, it's hard for me to start it. Okay. So I'll engage in it if somebody else brings it up, but it's hard for me to have difficult conversations.
And I've noticed that too, because even with, like, some of the things, or I'll say something, you'll be like, "Oh, well, I was thinking about that, so I'm glad you brought it up."
Yeah.
And I'm like, why she just don't ever say it? Like, she already know I don't care regardless, so I'm gonna say it anyway. So why she just don't?
Just like, I guess, just fear of people, not wanting to hurt somebody's feelings, or you not knowing how that person will respond. I think that's probably part of it. And my mom does the same thing. But the thing is, I can recognize when she does it. It's kind of like, what is it that they say? Pointing out the big spot in somebody else's eye and not respecting your own, something like that. I'm sure you can Google it. But it's kind of like, I think just in my 30s is when I really started recognizing I do it too. And so when I talk to my mom and she's telling me, well, this is happening, and, they just need to do this. I was like, well, why don't you just tell her that that's what you want? Like, just tell her, have a conversation and not be texting back and forth,
right?
Going back and forth and then calling me to tell me how you really feel. But I do the same thing. So, yeah, that's one, and that's major. Like, that's the big thing. Communication. You communicate with people on your job, with your children, with your friends. That's something that I'm working on constantly. Constantly.
It's all about growth.
Yes. So, what else? What other qualities do you feel that you picked up from your family?
Another one. Is a sense of family and community. So, like I stated before, like, my family is very close knit to a degree. I think as we've gotten older, we've kind of drifted apart because of some things that weren't dealt with when we were all younger.
That is in every family.
Right. But when I was younger, like, everything was good. Like, every month we would rent out like 2 or 3 pavilions at the park. And my grandfather, all the men would get to the park early and start, making the chicken, the goat, whatever it was. And then we would come later and just, like, eat and have fun. And me and my cousins, like, I had my little Barbie Jeep and my little Barbie motorcycle, and my other cousin had her red Jeep, and we'd be cruising these park streets. Like, what's up? So it's just, like, fun memories like that. And we don't really do that anymore. One, because everyone is older and starting their own families. And we don't all live in Florida like we used to. Like, all of my family, when I was younger, lived in Florida or Jamaica, which were super close. So it was easy, but now everyone's ventured off in Florida, New York, Georgia, California, whatever. So it's just not the same anymore. But just having the sense of family, and family is important, and you should always take care of family no matter what. And then that's when the problem arises. Because then you do start to develop the enablers in the family, where I know if I go to this person, they're going to help me no matter what the decisions I've made. And we argue about this with my grandmother because some of my cousins, and she's just like, I don't know why that girl is trying to beg him for money, and she see what kind of predicament he's in, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, Grandma, he made the decisions that he made, and he has to deal with those.
Right.
Like, nobody needs to come to their rescue all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And she doesn't understand that, and she does that with some of her children too. And then my mom, she's not to that level, and I don't think she'll get to that level where she just doesn't want to see both sides of the story. But more likely than not, she does give in. More than likely or not, she gives in, and she's like, well, I guess I can help them and do this and that. And so my uncle is kind of like that, the one that's older, like a year older than her, but kind of not. And he's like where I want to be, where it's like, I'm going to help you, but I'm only going to help you once, and I'm not going to stay here for long.
Right.
Like my uncle that has been sick, and he put himself in the situation, yes, but he's still sick, so we still need to help him.
Yes.
And so my uncle went there this past weekend, and I think he only told my mom or whatever. And so my uncle that helped him lives here in Atlanta, and my other uncle lives in Alabama. And so he was like, yeah, I'm going down there like at 9 o'clock. And so my mom said at 11, he called her and was like, I'm gone. And so she was like,
family.
That fast? And she was like, he was like, yeah, I was only going to stay there for 30 minutes because I did what I needed to do when I left. I don't have time for all this extra stuff.
Listen, you got to know your boundaries.
Yes. And I'm like, if she could just get to that point, then she would be okay. But I know that it's not in her nature because she's very caring and stuff like that. But if she could just get to that.
And that comes at a price. Like, you got to know your boundaries. Because people can literally suck you dry. Like, to the point where you're just so tired, and it gets to the point where you're not really doing it at your own will because you want to do it. You just you feel like you have to do it. You feel like you need to do it. And that's where resentment comes in. So you have to, you can still help, but you got to leave a certain level of space in there for people to learn from their mistakes, because you're only enabling them and you're not helping them to learn the lesson that they need to learn. If you're constantly stepping in to save the day, they're not learning what they need to learn. So, and I really like, you just gotta have some healthy boundaries in there. And whether or not people trying to adhere to them, you gotta put it out there. Yeah. And what are they gonna do when you go?
Find somebody else to reach out
all the time. Yeah. They're gonna find somebody else. They either gonna learn how to do it on their own and figure it out and do what they're supposed to do with their lives, or they're going to find somebody else to do it.
And 9 times out of 10, they're going to find somebody else.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a very good one.
Yeah.
We could go on. That could go on. Yeah. That's a series.
If they don't tell you series.
Yes.
Families.
Family.
All right. So what's something that you have?
I think one of the other things is just some of the choices that you make as an adult. So like when you're a kid, like you were saying before, y'all used to be close when you were younger. But I think that also is the lens that you see it through, because a lot of the stuff that's going on now was going on when you were younger too.
And that's true too.
It was just kind of, you didn't know about it. The adults had their conversations and you didn't know about, that stuff was hidden from us kids, because everybody's perfect.
Right.
Like it's some stuff that you just can't see. And that's one of the things that I don't like about, when you're young, there are certain level of things that you shouldn't know about, but there should be conversations going on, because if you have a conversation with your family at a younger age, you can learn as a child what not to do. Or even if you do have that conversation, you choose to make that mistake on your own, at least you knew. You can't say that you didn't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of the conversations that they had and stuff that you don't know about, secrets and all those things that don't get exposed, it only hurts the next generation, because you're not having those conversations. So the next generation come along and you like, oh yeah, well I'm going to do this. I'm going to get into this. Not knowing your auntie did that too.
Right.
Nobody told, but the issue they don't tell you. Like if you would have told me that, there's still a chance that I'm going to make that mistake. But there's also a chance that I'm not going to make that mistake if you had told me about it. So the choices that, decided not to share certain things with your children or your grandkids or your nephews and nieces or whatever, I think that can really hinder, you know, our progress or like some of the choices that we make. It takes us longer to get around to the issue if you don't know about it. But I think also just growing up in a family that was, there wasn't a lot of people that went to college. There was a lot of, just trying to get by, just trying to make it and, working however many jobs just to get there, which is the good thing. You're paying your bills and you know what you're supposed to do, taking care of your kids. But just that level of just understanding that struggle, you know what I'm saying? Just always struggling or just having to make it. Okay. I saw a lot of that. And so when I decided that I wanted to go to school and make different choices and do better, it was always that struggle was always there. Mentally, you just always thinking that that's going to be your story. That's going to be your life. And so when you constantly focusing on that, it can play in your life. You know what I'm saying? When you focus like, oh, I'm going to be struggling, or, this person is dealing with that, or, you looking at your family, or you going to functions and this is what you see is struggle. That's going to always play a part in your mind. So I really understand. I see how, you have celebrities that come from nothing and they still live like they still have that mentality, that struggle mentality. Yeah. I can see that because it's hard to get away from that when that's what you've been shown, not really taught, but just about what you see. So, just constantly making the effort to make different choices and not just shy away from, your family and the fact that they're struggling, but just, supporting them and staying humble. Yeah. Like, you're one step away from this. Like, you're not, like, you haven't made it. Like, yeah, you're good. You're making good choices, but sis, like, all you gotta do is turn your head to the left. And you will see struggle. Like, it's not that far away. Right. So that's another reason why I say it's very, it's humbling. Like, you're not exempt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but that doesn't stop me from, still just trying to make better choices and making sure that, I live in such a way that it is an example for CJ. Like, you don't have to struggle, and where you come from doesn't have to determine, where you end up. Just trying to always do better and make better choices. Okay. So,
that's good. Yeah. And that's like a good segue for my next one. Okay. Because I'm kind of the opposite. Okay. So my family was big on education. Like, I knew from an early age, it's not a matter of if you're going to college, it's where. Because my cousins had degrees, my parents have degrees, and stuff like that, my aunts, uncles. So it was like, what do you mean if you go to college? Like, no, girl, you're going to go. And then you're going to go get your master's. And then if you decide to go beyond that, that's a choice too. But all of that right there, like, that's not an option. And so I didn't, and this is kind of good and kind of bad. Like, I didn't grow up witnessing, like, the whole struggle thing because both sets of my grandparents were good. My father was good. My mom was good. So, like my name suggests, pampered bougie princess. I will say it now. I used to not like to admit it before, but I was spoiled. Like, I had everything, and that comes from my dad and my mom too, because they grew up somewhat spoiled compared to their other counterparts. Like, who in the world, like in the 60s and 70s, when my mom grew up, she had a car. Her and my uncle had cars in high school. Like, what black children do you know had new cars in high school? My grandfather used to buy a new car every year. They had a home to live in. They never had to struggle. They could go, at that time it was Burdines. I still think there are Burdines in Florida, but it's like a spinoff of Macy's. Yeah. Like, they could go there and shop till they drop, and then my grandma could afford to say, don't tell your daddy that, I bought this, blah, blah, blah. Like, they could do that, and so they extended that to me. I had a car before I had a driver's license because my mama was like, you're not going to mess up my car learning how to drive. Like, that's not going to happen. And so, in a sense, it kind of instilled in me that I know that I was fortunate enough to where I could take risks and still be okay. Like, I quit my job after a year so I could go back to school, and I lived comfortably. I lived almost like I lived when I was having a job. And that was because I knew that I myself had savings to fall back on, and if that dried up, I had my mom and my dad to lean on, and even my grandparents to an extent. But at the same time, sometimes I can take that risk taking a little too far and go into things like, well, I mean, it's okay. I can always find a job. Like, I tell people all the time, like, I've never had to. The job I have now was the first job that I applied to where I didn't know anybody that was on the hiring team. Any other job that I've had, it's been like that. One of my uncle's friends was the store manager at Bed Bath & Beyond, which was my first job out of high school, making $9 an hour. I've never made less than $9 an hour. So stuff like that, it's like I'm grateful, but then at sometimes it can make me kind of naive to the struggles of other people. And so when I hear stories and I'm like, like, oh my gosh, like that really happens.
Yeah.
And that was true too when me and my mom went to go see Precious. And when I say my mama couldn't stop talking about that movie because she was just, it was just unimaginable that people actually lived like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Mom, like people, like she was in utter just like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, Mama, people actually live
that
like
way
that.
and worse.
Right.
Even worse, yeah.
And so sometimes I have to be cognizant about that when I say certain things or when I think a certain way. But I will say that my family did instill in me to the point that, you know, everybody isn't as grateful as us. Well, not grateful, but everybody isn't
gracious.
As blessed and gracious as we are. So you still kind of need to have that community aspect and help people when you can and stuff like that. But yeah. So
yeah, and it can take it. You can take it different ways. So, you know, we were raised differently, and while we struggled, it was never to the point of Precious. Like, we had, you know, I can never remember a time where we didn't have a roof over our head, and I know that it would never get to that point. Having the grandfather that I had, because my grandfather was like my father, he worked on his job for 50 something years, and you know, had a very good job. And I knew what was possible because he told me what was possible. You know, he told me that I was going to go to college. That wasn't something that was, you know, instilled in me in my household, but I had someone in my life who was like, you need to go to school, you need to get your education, you need to stay in school, you don't need to be having babies, you know, before you graduate high school. Like, make different choices. You see what your life could be, you know, but make different choices. And he was just always someone that showed me different. He didn't just talk about it. You know, he lived that life, and we knew that if we needed something, he was gonna make sure that it happened. So, but I feel like you can struggle and, you know, make something out of yourself, but you can also go the other way. You know, if you don't have people in your life that are constantly telling you, like, you're worth it, you can do this. There are things that you can achieve, or having somebody that can say, doesn't have to be your life. And so I think having that really helps. And then also with someone who grew up with having everything, you know, that could go an opposite way. You know, you can grow up and just be out there and be out there strung out on drugs, and I mean, we see it every day with the opioid epidemic. The
man-made epidemic. You have these affluent people that have access to all of this stuff to make the wrong decisions. And I think that's when it comes down to actually my next thing of having a solid foundation of morals and characters and faith. Like, that was always instilled in me. Like, from the beginning, like, both sides of my family are, I don't want to say very religious, but they're very spiritual and know that the very foundation of anything is God. And so that was instilled in me young. And yes, I've strayed away sometimes. Like, I didn't go to church like I was supposed to.
You gotta figure it out. You gotta get out there.
But it was kind of in the back of my head, like, there were just some things that I would not do. Some places I definitely wouldn't go. Some things I wouldn't say. Because that was instilled in me, from since I was a little girl. So that's the whole thing. Like, no matter the amount of money you have, like if you don't have anything to if you have, an absorbent amount, if a solid foundation of good morals and good characters isn't just, instilled in you, it can go
absolutely
left.
It can go all
no
the
matter
way
what
left.
you have or don't have.
Yeah. And I agree. I had that on my list also. Just having that that faith, that foundation of, even when your people weren't going to church, there was times where you was gonna have church, like that uncle, that preacher uncle, or somebody in the neighborhood, somebody was gonna come over there and let y'all know we praying for you. Like, it's just you just, in most of our families, that's just what we have. And so deep down, even when you stray away, even when you're not going to church, you got that foundation, and when you get down and out, you know what you got to do.
Yeah, basically.
Because me and my mom were talking about that one time, and even when, before my grandmother passed, I used to go to church with her because I used to take her to church because after she had her stroke and had all kind of health issues and stuff, she couldn't drive. So I used to go to her church with her when my mom and them weren't going to church. And then once my grandmother passed away, I used to go to my granddad's church. And my mom used to be like, yeah, Nisa used to be getting up, going to church, and I just be up there hanging over. But that's because we had those people in our lives that was like, this is your foundation. It doesn't matter what you go through. It doesn't matter what you do. You need to have some faith. You need to have some kind of relationship with God to know you got somewhere to go, no matter how far you fall. So, yeah, I think that is very important. And that has sustained me, through a lot of things. And I'm sure you can agree, like, sometimes life is just hard, so you just need that reassurance that, like, I'm going to make it through. Yeah. So all you got to do is open up that book, and you can go to any page and you can find some kind of reassurance, or Google it, look it up on the internet. Yeah. You can type in your problem, what you're going through.
And you'll come up with
a verse will
book, chapter, and verse. Book, chapter, and verse.
Yeah, so that's very important. Yeah, very important. Even if you got a trash family, having faith, having that relationship will get you through. And I know a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I know some people that do have, they don't have good relationships with their family. Or they don't have someone that they can call. Either their mother has passed away or both parents have passed away, and they just feel like they don't have anybody. But that relationship with God is very important. Yeah. It's the most important relationship.
Ooh, yes it is.
Yeah, got kind of
deep there for a moment. You're about to testify.
Listen.
Testimony. When you look back over your life.
When I look back over my life.
And you think things over.
Yes.
You can truly say that you've been blessed.
You've been blessed.
What you got? A testimony.
A testimony. Somebody better give them the word. Somebody better get it. Somebody better receive it.
Oh my God.
You better receive that. Receive it.
Yes. Okay.
So, yes. All right.
Okay, so I have two more, but I think we've already discussed one. So I'm going to just end with this one. It's a negative, and hopefully nobody from my family
well,
listen.
Someone's probably gonna listen.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's gonna happen.
And they're gonna be like, "That's not true," and I'm like,
that's not their experience.
Yes,
we're talking about your experience.
They're going to think of it as we're just looking out for you.
Yeah,
but
like Auntie Ayala say, this is your experience.
Yes,
whatever
my
you
experience.
feel within you, that's what you share.
Yes.
You started by saying, in my experience.
In my experience, my family can be a little classist. And I don't want to say shallow, but classist and kind of shallow.
Okay.
And those are traits that I deal with today too. So in the classist thing, this goes all the way back. So my grandfather's mother and father, their families married within each other. So like my great grandmother's sisters all married my great grandfather's brothers.
Okay, I have something similar to that.
And so the reason for that was class. So my great-grandfather's family was pretty off-to-do. They owned land and stuff, and so did my great-grand. And they wanted to keep it. Like, you gonna marry everything.
Which, when you think about it, that's not really a negative thing.
No, it's not.
It's okay because that's what they do.
But that's true. That's exactly what they do, which is crazy. So why I think that is classes. But anyways,
I don't think the classes thing comes from how they chose to live their life and maintain their wealth. I think the class is just how you project it onto other people.
Right.
That's the part.
And so it can be, and I think I told you this story too before. And so, like, at my college graduation, I was dating some guy, and basically he was like, I don't know how to describe it. He wasn't a waste man. Well, he was to an extent. He was definitely a waste man. But, you know, he was nice or whatever. And he had goals.
That's what we say.
Right.
Oh, Lord, I don't know where this is going. But when you start the conversation out, he's a nice guy. He had goals.
But I think at the time he was like, he had started like the trade of being an electrician. He had no steady job, right? He didn't have no steady job, no steady paycheck, no benefits. He was doing like odd and end jobs, like, oh, I can do this, I can fix this for you, blah, blah, blah. So when my dad and grandfather were talking to him at my graduation dinner, they were just like, oh, okay. Because, you know, my grandfather, like, when he started his business, it was a construction business, and then he built that up. And so the boy was just like, oh, yeah, you know, I eventually want to do that too, but I'm starting here. Like, I do little, you know, odd and end jobs of doing this in people's houses. I don't know, building, whatever. And so my grandfather was just sitting there looking like, oh, okay. And my dad had just totally checked out. My daddy was just like, I'm not even going to entertain this foolishness. So he was talking to my stepmama just eating his steak and lobster. Like, I'm not even going to entertain this anymore. So whatever. And so when it was time for us to leave, they were like, oh, yeah, we need to have a conversation with you, you know, when you get a minute. And I was like, gosh. And they put me inside, and they was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
he's a pressure washer. He's a pressure washer guy.
Girl, my grandpa was like, I did not, you know, break my back working, building a business, you know, making sure my kids are good, making sure that y'all were good for you to be sitting here talking to a little odd and end worker. Like, what are you doing with your life? No.
Yeah.
Nip this in the bud now.
Right.
And I was like, you guys, you just can't see the potential of people, and how dare you think about that?
You was in love with a pressure washer guy.
And it's always been like that. Even my grandma, you know, my grandma is quick to call somebody a ghetto hood lady. Like, she would talk about people, like, even when I was younger, she would be like, you don't need to be friends with them. Like, they come from a bad family. They come from a crowd, and, you know, you don't need to do that. And so as I've gotten older, I kind of maintained that mentality. And I'm like, sometimes it can be good because it can save you from some stuff.
Yeah, true.
But sometimes it's not.
Right. And I mean, I can see, like, from the whole dating thing, you know, your family has certain expectations. So, I think any normal family, no matter, you know, what their outlook or, you know, where they come from, like, you just want the best for your kids. Yeah. You want the best for your grandkids. So, I can see that. But also, but I've never had that experience of, like, people saying, like, when I first met CJ's dad, I don't even remember what he was doing. I'm sure it was something. You know, it could have been a pressure washer guy. But, you know, my mom just loved him. Like, yes, you need to keep him. But when I look back at it, I'm like, I don't know that I would tell my child, like, yeah, that's the one. Like,
you would have said, you need to throw him back.
Aim higher.
Wherever you coming from, you need to throw him back.
Right. So, yeah. But your background, I mean, that's just, everybody comes from something different. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have nobody sitting there telling, like, you could be still with pressure washer guy right now. You know, y'all struggling and trying to get through.
He passed away. May he rest in peace.
Oh, rest in peace.
Yeah.
You couldn't lead with that?
I
thought I call this man pressure washer guy.
It's not funny. It's not funny. I'm so sorry. Ooh, it's not funny, especially
you
the
can
way.
stop me at the first person watch your guy. Like, really? That's what we doing?
I just hope people that know who I'm talking about don't listen to this because they're gonna be like, she is evil.
Out here looking crazy in these streets. Yeah, got me being evil too.
Sorry.
The chief encouragement officer.
Sorry.
Okay, so we got to move on from that. Because my Lord don't appreciate that.
I'm sorry. But, my second thing was shallowness. So,
Yes, I do.
When it comes to the way you look and the way you dress and the way you present yourself to the world, my family don't play no games. Like, we are the family at the family reunion. I remember one time we went to my grandfather's family reunion, and one lady came up to my uncle and was like, "Oh, you must be the doctor of the family. Like, oh, y'all all look so nice. We come dressed to impress.
Yes.
My uncle have all the cars, so he gonna come up in the Benz one day or the Range Rover. Oh, he gonna let you know." And that stemmed a lot from my grandmother too, because she's always you need to look good.
Yeah.
Have your hair together, your makeup, your shoes. Like any function we go to, my grandma's like, "What are you wearing?" And you tell her, and she's like, "Let me see it," because you're not going to be out here embarrassing me. And that has, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it because it's good. Yes. But to me, it has hindered the way that I present myself to the world, because I always think that I'm supposed to be perfect.
A certain way.
And my hair is supposed to be a certain way. Like when I cut my hair, I was definitely afraid, not for me, but for what my dad and my grandfather and everybody would think. So after I got it cut and I FaceTimed my grandparents, and my grandpa was like, "Oh my gosh, you look so good." Like that brought up my spirits. Like it was a sigh of relief, like, oh, like,
so
okay.
They accept
it's going to be, like they accepted and I still look good. But I still struggle with that of trying to look a certain way. Yeah. And also, like, they project that on other people. Like, I'll never, like, my friends and my uncles and aunties will always be like, how they describe my friends, "Oh, the pretty one," or the one with, the nice shape, or, the one that don't look that good, And it's like, it's not all about that. So,
right.
But
And I haven't really had it as much, and because, I don't really know my dad's side of the family. I have heard that they're really, they present themselves really well. It's a lot of like lawyers and doctors, but they've just never really reached out to me, and we've never really had a relationship. So again, that's another episode. But just hearing that and seeing, like, my family, they show up and show out, but it's not always like, "What are you wearing?" or "Make sure that you present yourself." Like they'll, if they're going somewhere, they're gonna present themselves really nicely. But to me, it's sometimes that can be taken as trying to cover up things. Like when you always got to show up, like you always got to put yourself out there and being like, "Oh, well, this is me, and this is, my life is great, and this is who I am. This is what I'm showing up as." It can be not that everybody that does that feel, is covering up something, but when it gets to the point where it affects other people in a negative way because they're projecting how it is that they feel that they should show up on you, I feel that it's not coming from a place of, "Oh, well, this is just how I feel, I need to show up." You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, it does.
I just feel like when it causes you to think about cutting your hair or how they're gonna feel, I just feel like that's not showing up in a genuine way. If you want to cut your hair, that's how you feel you want to do it, as your hair.
I think it's more so of not, I don't want to disappoint them, but their opinion does matter to me. Yeah. Because they have contributed to a lot of positives in my life, and so it's like because hair is like it's trivial. Like, I know if had I cut my hair and they didn't like it or whatever, because there's some styles, like, they don't like now, like these faux locks. Like, my grandpa is just like, "Okay, girl, whatever." And so my grandma is like, "Why did you get all them different colors?" Like, it's like, I can brush that off, like, whatever, but it was still, because that was a big thing for me, cutting my hair. Like, I put it off on them, but it was big for me because I've always had long hair. Like, that's how people knew me. You say Serena, they're going to say the one with the big tie-ties or the girl with the long hair.
Right.
So that was more of a personal identity thing. But I don't know if it comes from a place of trying to cover up things. I just think it's, I don't know.
And I feel like for most of my family, it's not really just how you dress or just showing up looking a certain way, because like I said, they do, they can show up and show out. But without fail, if you're going to a family event, somebody gonna tell you if you done lost weight or gained weight.
Oh yeah, that's like, all families.
You gonna be identified by however many pounds you gained or however many pounds you've lost, which, I mean, and that's just not in the family, that's society in general. Like, people are just gonna look at you and say either you've gotten big or you got smaller. Like, that's just the way that we've been programmed, and it's hard to deprogram that when that's what every time you see somebody at a family reunion or at Thanksgiving or whatever, they're calling out like, oh, you've gained this or you lost this. You look so good.
Yep.
You look great. Like, have you ever, do you know how many times you've told somebody how great they look after they've lost weight, but you've never told them how great they look, even if they've gained 10 or 15 pounds or whatever, not knowing that person got to look at themselves every day and pull them jeans over all them thighs. Like, we know, sis. We know. We know how much we've gained. We know how much we've lost. But we've just been so programmed to say, oh my, even on, social media, if somebody posts a picture.
Like Transformation Tuesday. Oh my God.
Not even, like those, yes. But not even a Transformation Tuesday. But if somebody just posts a picture where they visibly, somebody has seen, and people even go back and look at the previous picture from months ago and say, oh my God, you look great. Like, the person not even putting it out there that they lost weight. They're just saying, oh my God, I feel so good today. Like, underlying, they probably meant to post it and say, I look great because I lost 15 pounds. But they didn't even say that. Like, you don't even have to say it for people to be like, and so I just be like, oh, they didn't look, I didn't look great. Right. 20 pounds
and
ago.
So my mom is good for this. So she be like, not that you didn't look good before, but
no disclaimers. Just say what you mean. Say it. Say, like my grandma say what you mean and mean what you say.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, there are so many things that our family contributes to. And not that this wasn't like a bashing section by any means, because our families are our foundation. Who we are, we wouldn't be who we are today, good or bad, without them. So, but I think we should all be transparent about what it is that we've learned from our families, because that's how you grow, that's how you learn, and I think that's how you identify with yourself, like knowing where you come from, knowing what it is that you choose to take from them and apply to your own life, and then or not apply it. Leave it where it's at because you feel like that's not a part of who you are or what you want to be. So this was a very good discussion.
It really was.
So. Okay. So the ish they don't tell you about family.
Yes.
One of the things that and I was reading something the other day that talks about how we just see certain people in our family as not making any mistakes, and even as a parent, you just want your child to believe in a subconscious way like you got yourself together,
right? And
so, and we talked about this earlier. Like, I think that our children should see, some of our imperfections, not everything, because I don't think we need to know everything. But I think at some point you need to allow them to see or have conversations like, these are some of the mistakes that I made. Okay. This is what I don't want. This is what I don't want you to do. Okay. This is what I did. This is what I learned from it. And so I'm telling you so that you don't make the same mistakes. But a lot of those conversations don't happen because our parents or our grandparents or the elders in our family just don't want us to know some of the things that they did just out of whatever, whether they were shame or they just, that's a part of their life that they just want to go away and don't really want anybody to know about it, or they keep it away from you so that you don't do it, which is that's not the right way to do it. Because even though you don't tell me, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it. That's just like just not ever mentioning sex because you think I'm not going to do it. No, that's not really how it works. Like, do you know that our friends are talking about it? Some of our friends have done it. So, that's one of my big things is I just wish that they had some of those conversations. Like, this is what happened to me. These are some of the mistakes that I made that I don't want you to make. Did you have the same experience in your family?
I think my mom did, and so she was the total opposite with me.
Oh, okay.
So, like, my grandparents didn't talk to her, about sex. Yeah. It was just, you don't do it.
Right.
And so my mom became an oversharer with me, and she would come home and be the one to bring, like, AIDS pamphlets and HIV and STD.
That's me.
And I would be like, Mom, I feel you. I really don't feel comfortable talking about this with you. Like, no, leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah,
You went to the other extreme.
Yeah, she went to the other extreme.
That's me. My mom didn't talk about it. All I know is at some point, maybe 12, 13, 14, after she realized my sister was involved, that she just sent me to the health department to get a shot in my arm. And I protested. I said, no, we will not do this. I'm not even doing anything. I'm not even thinking about it. Like, I was hysterical. Like, why are we doing this? Like, you're not even going to talk to me about why? Like,
you just going to do it?
And I mean, I can understand it. Like, you don't want your girls to become, mothers at an early age. But at the same time, before this, you had never even talked about it. Like, you just kept it at bay because you just thought we weren't going to find out.
Right.
So, So, yeah, when you find out your people aren't as perfect as they put themselves out there to be.
Yes. Yes. But I would say my ish that they don't tell you is family dynamics and relationships aren't always perfect. So it's kind of to yours. And so this goes back to my mom and my dad. So my mom and my dad separated, when I was young. And so, and this will be in our other episode that we keep referencing, y'all. Like, so I thought that not that my dad was perfect, but like he was my dad. Like,
you don't know.
It was just my parents aren't together anymore. They both moved on. My dad had my 2 brothers with my stepmom and blah, blah, blah. Yes, my brother is only 9 months younger than me, but okay. And then when you get older, all this stuff starts coming out. I'll never forget. It's like immediately when I turned 18 and was about to go off to college, I started hearing all the stories. Yeah. And I'm just like, Dad did what?
Right.
Like, and then Grandpa had to do what to him? And then my other grandpa said what? And it's like, wait, what is going on? And it's like you in this kind of world spin, you already have all of these emotions that you're about to go off to college,
and then you find out you can process them correctly.
Right, and then you find out that your dad was possibly trash to your mom, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, what are you people doing to me? And so, and in a way, you shouldn't put all of that stuff on a young child, but once you get older, you start to realize that the relationships and the dynamics between your family are not quite what they seem when you're younger. And not to say that you should, tell your kids about issues and stuff, because you shouldn't. You shouldn't, but just be prepared for when they get older that it's going to be a lot of explaining, a lot of questions, and be willing to have those conversations.
Yeah. And I think some of those conversations can happen at an appropriate age. Okay. I don't think that they need to happen prior to 13 or 14, I think that they need to have a mature level of understanding certain situations. But even
after 13, 14, I don't think that they're mature for some stuff.
I think they are. They're having conversations at school about certain things that...
But even still, those conversations aren't as informative. Like, their brains are still developing.
Absolutely. But there are certain... I think, in my opinion, in my experience, and having certain things being withheld from me that I feel like I should have known, I choose to do differently with my child. Not that he needs to know every in and out of every situation and what kind of trash this person is and what this person did to me or whatever. But I think that there needs to be a certain level of understanding. There are certain things that happen with me and his dad that he knows about, whether he knows about them from me or his dad. Because he doesn't need to have a false expectation of, oh, my parents may get back together one day. Like, I know my dad lives here, my mom lives here. This is why we're not together. In a healthy conversation. I think that a child at his age or whatever, whenever you feel like it's appropriate for your child to understand, or if they're asking certain questions, because sometimes they do ask questions and we just blow it off like, oh, we're just not going to talk about that. I think if a child comes to you and asks you a question about a certain situation, you should be able to have that conversation with them, because obviously they want to know. If they're interested, if they're intrigued, or they heard something from someone else, you don't want them to get the wrong story. Right. You want them to get the right story, because they could go and ask someone else in the family and get a totally different story. So I do think there are certain things that you talk about. Lots of things are off limits, but if they're asking you and you feel like they're at a mature age, some conversations need to happen. Just because they just need to know. Okay. And they may not even know how to handle it appropriately. But when they're older, because there are some things you remember from a certain age. When they're older, they're going to go back and say, oh, well, my mom did have talk to me about that. I remember she talked to me about it, but I didn't really understand it then. But now I see, at least she tried to have the conversation with me or something to that effect. But I just think blowing off conversation just because they're adult conversations, I just don't agree with that. Okay. Some things. And I feel the same way, like, when our parents, we were younger, there were rooms for adults and then there were rooms for kids. Children, yeah. And I don't agree with that. I do agree that there are some conversations that don't need to happen in front of kids. Like, there's a time and a place for a child. Child doesn't need to be in an adult conversation. But if I have some friends over, or if I'm hosting a dinner party and, they bring their kids and we're talking about certain things that may be adult type conversation, there are some conversations that I'll just let CJ be involved in, because I think he needs to hear perspectives from other adults, not just people in his family. There are certain things that you could teach him that I may not be able to teach him. There are certain cultural things that that I don't know about. Okay. He could benefit from that. So I don't think kids need to be removed from all conversations. Okay, there are certain times where other people can teach, and they should be able to teach them, because it's not just going to be you. It takes a whole village to raise kids, and you can't teach them everything. His dad can't teach them everything. There are certain things they're going to learn from their teachers or their coaches or whoever. So I think the more people they have around them and the more knowledge that they can get, the better off that they're going to be.
I agree with that too, because when I think about it, I do have like a lot of influential people in my life who didn't come from like my immediate family. Yeah. Like my mom would like have me, I would stay over or be around a lot of her friends, and I would learn things from them. Like they would always have like Friendsgivings and friend Christmas parties, and they would bring all their children, and we would all hang together, but we would also learn from the adults and stuff. So I
think that's really important. I think that's very important. Yeah, we weren't listen. As soon as you step in the door, there was a place for the kids. As soon as you step in the door, there was a place for. Now, of course, if you drinking and stuff like that, that's a totally different story. But there are times when you have, just clean fun with your friends, and they bring their kids or whatever. You can have conversations with the kids. I mean, it's always something for them to learn. Yeah. So
I totally agree.
So So other ish they don't tell you. And this is for people, because we've talked a lot about family. We've talked about how they, the role that they played in our lives, and what benefits we have from having a great foundation. But then there are also people that have really toxic family members, or family members that they've had a lot of trauma from their childhood, and they don't have that option to get, talk to their family member when they're going through something, or if they need something, they can call a family member, or if they're having functions, inviting their family members to it. So the other flip side of that is, having to remove yourself from a toxic family environment and having to make the choice that I'm not going to have anything to do with them because they only bring me shame, they only bring me hurt, they only bring me pain. Like, how do you even, it's hard for me to even have conversation with those type of people because I don't understand it. You just have to come from a place of saying, okay, well, no, I don't understand it, but if you feel like there's nothing but negative coming from the people that basically were your foundation growing up, but they also brought you a lot of pain, they also brought you a lot of trauma, you have to do what's good for you. You got to protect your peace. You got to make sure that you surround yourself with people that are loving. And so some people, for family, that means friends, that means co-workers, that means, mentors or whoever. Everybody doesn't have that family foundation.
Yeah, and that was going to be my other, like, the issue they don't tell you is that non-family can become family.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, I consider, like, my best friend's family, like, an extension of my family. Like, Daddy Z, Mama Aretha, like, her siblings, all of them are, like, my family. And so it doesn't necessarily, like, you don't necessarily have to be related through blood for you to consider somebody family. Like, I was thinking, when we were talking before, and we were like, you know, how you have friends, different stages of friends, and like friends from childhood and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I was like, man, I really don't have friends from childhood. And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait, I do, but I've been referring to them as my cousins for so long that I don't even see them as friends. Like, those are my cousins, that's my family, their parents are my auntie and uncle, and all of that. And it's like, it's amazing how that shift can happen to where they go from friends to, like, for real, pure family. So,
absolutely. And those people play just as much of a role in your life as your blood family does. You know, they pour into your children, they support you, they come to your events, they make sure that they know, you know, what's going on in your life, they check in on you, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So, family, friends that are family too.
Yes, the ish they don't tell.
Ish they don't tell you. So good. So necessary.
Yes. All right, guys. So that is our show today. Thank you so much for joining us again and listening.
Awesome.
We hope that, you know, this episode was really transparent, made you think about some things, and possibly have some conversations with your family that you kind of been like, you know, not wanting to have before. So don't forget to follow us on the gram at Ish They Don't Tell. And you can also follow me at I Am Serena Nicole.
And I'm at Denise Iman, DenysiMan.
Get the spelling right.
Yes, please
get it right. And also let us know, like, write into us, or, you know, hit us up on the gram or Facebook, Twitter, whatever. All of that stuff will be in the show notes about your family, and maybe some positives and negatives of how they contributed to your life. We would love to hear us.
Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, Cube Combos. Yes, where you will be the first to know when we drop an episode, and also some extra goodies that we're going to have for you.
And Cube Combos is just short for cubicle, you know.
Yes, cubicle.
We live that cube life.
That cube life. We're very fortunate that our cubes are bigger than most. It's little mini offices.
Yes.
But we still in the cubes.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes.
And we'll catch you in these podcast streets later.
Yes. Peace out. Bye.
We'll talk to you